And this is our guest today. This is Carol Vincent. And this is actually Adina and Steve, her husband's pastor's wife. And she has a really unique testimony that we really want her to share with us today. So, Carol, tell us a little bit about how you grew up and what happened.
Okay, well, I was a part of an Army family, so I was born in Okinawa. We traveled a lot. About every 2 or 3 years, we traveled and changed locations. And my dad was an alcoholic, hated the Army, hated the military and everything about it. So he drowned himself in alcohol, and that created scenarios in our home life that were sometimes violent, sometimes very depressing. And so, yeah, by the time I was in the 7th grade, he and my mom decided to get a divorce. And so they separated in January, and then about in May, he left for Germany. And when he left for Germany, we didn't get to say goodbye. And he just jumped on a plane and he was gone. And I didn't see him again until after I graduated from high school. About 5 months later, my brother died. Well, no, it was about a year. It was a year and 5 months later. My brother died. He was in a swimming pool, and he was 15 years old, and he passed away in the swimming pool. It was at that time that I asked the Lord, I said, God, why did you take him? Why didn't you take me? And he told me, he said, because you're not ready. And that's all I heard from him. And we were not raised in a Christian home at all. My mom was Catholic. My dad, like I said, he hated God. He and his brothers would cut down tents and tent revivals when they were younger. Wow. I mean, they hated God. And that's a whole other backstory. And so, anyway, after my brother died, I went through a 4-year journey of the Holy Spirit just really pulling on me. Because I'd said, God, if you're real, I want to know. Show me that you're real.
Yeah, don't ask God to show you something if you're not right, if you don't mean it, because He's gonna show you.
Absolutely. And the reality of heaven and hell was there because I did. I've just experienced the loss. And I was 12 years old at the time when he passed away, and it was kind of daunting for me because he was my older brother. Without my dad being around, he kind of was my protector. He was my shield. And so now he's been taken from me, and I've got a younger brother at home, and we just became prey for everything that came through. Every weird, freaky man that could possibly enter into the lives of children came into ours. But we said if it was a squirrel, it was going to find us, And so, we were going through some things that, nobody could have known about because we didn't say, we didn't tell. But the one thing that we found out later on was the man that my older brother had worked with that summer led him to the Lord.
Wow.
And so
that's awesome.
You gotta know that he prayed for us before he left this world, and so I believe that's a lot of the reason why God reached out. But anyway, so for the next 4 years, I went through this love-hate relationship with God. He was loving on me, and I was hating on him, and it got bad. I was just
a real love-hate relationship.
It was really love-hate. My friends would go to church, and it was just kind of a fad thing to do, something to give me something to do on the weekends with them, and so I would go to church with them. It didn't really matter what church. I went to a Baptist church, and I would just sit there and bawl. The Holy Spirit would just come, and I would cry, and I would feel so wrapped up in some love that I just didn't understand. Then I would leave there and just be angry because I didn't understand it. Why am I acting like a fool in church? I'm sitting here sobbing, and I don't know why. Went to an Episcopal church, sang in the Episcopal choir, and would just sit there in the same manifestation of the Holy Spirit. He would just come and just make me feel so loved in that setting. And then I would leave that place and it'd be like, I hate this and I'm not coming back here. And so anyway, you know, he was reaching out to me and I was just pushing as hard as I could away from what he was trying to do. But anyway, so my junior year in high school, one of the guys that was in our choir got saved, and he really got on fire for God. He was just a fireball, and so he would witness to everybody, and he would witness all around me. And we'd be standing in the stairwell in the choir department, and I would, inside my spirit with me, would just be irritating the tar out of me. And I said to myself, if he says anything to me about Jesus, I'm just going to slap him. That's how angry I was. And so he never said a word to me. He just said a word to everybody around me.
Sensed it.
Everybody around me.
This girl doesn't seem opened up.
Yeah, no, not a bit. And so, you know, at the end of my junior year, our family, well, my mom had gotten pregnant, and that's a whole other story. And she ended up marrying this guy that we didn't know. I didn't know him, but he was a man who was practicing voodoo and witchcraft.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, you know, after she married him, we moved. We moved from Killeen, Texas, where I had predominantly grew up since 3rd grade, out to West Texas, where I didn't know anybody except an aunt and uncle, which barely knew them. And God set me in a position where I was in a church with a pastor who understood spiritual warfare. He was a solid man of God. It wasn't a great big church. Solid man of God. He was a praying person, and he was somebody who would walk the floors at night and pray for his people.
Wow.
He would. His wife would get irritated at him because he would be up at 2 o'clock in the morning just interceding for his congregation. Well, my aunt and uncle asked me to go to church with them, and, you know, I had decided when we made that move that I wanted a different life. I didn't want to end up like my family. I didn't want to end up an alcoholic.